All right, Steve, can you move us to the next slide? And the next part of our conference is almost at the end. It's the next step for future direction with finalist audience and question and answers. Steve?
There we go. And we really want to hear from you. It's important we know where you want to go in the future with this. So this is your opportunity to share with us. Steve, next slide. So we're bringing back Alexis and Silvana and myself to close things off. And just like Alexis and Silvana to share their thoughts briefly on what they've seen over the last 2 days. So let's start with Alexis and then move to Silvana. So Alexis, anything you'd like to say?
All right, speaking of the technology, work again. So I think it's been really entertaining, and very, very informative. I know a number of the breakout sessions that I've attended. I've learned a lot, taken quite a lot of notes about where we can do better as an AWP community, which I think really is the intention of the conference. It's obviously a chance to network and get to know different products and services, but really it's a way for us to keep AWP top of mind and think about how we can do better to improve the community and ultimately get it become the tool that we think we know it'll all be, but it'll just take time to adopt the proper thinking, the culture, but ultimately getting more people familiar with it. So conferences like this are worthwhile. So not only have I been excited to be part of helping to put it together and do the speaking, but as a person engaged in the actual sessions, it's been really worthwhile for me to participate.
Great. And Silvana, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, Lloyd, I just want to say thank you to all the presenters, yourself, the organization group, and definitely a well-rounded set of information that was offered during the 2 days. The first one was workplace planning, and the second day about front-end planning. Definitely, if even for us as part of the AWP community, in this last section, it was really open mind for real research team that was last year presented or published, and that opened our mind to see it's always at some point of something new that we can improve in the project, and it's something better that we can do for productivity on the construction site. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those comments. Steve, could you move to the next slide, please? We had, at a number of the sessions, we had people post about last mile logistics in construction. And for myself, that was actually a term I wasn't familiar with. So I had Steve do a little bit of research. And I think this is kind of reflective of one of the things that we've seen in AWP. I want to just comment briefly on the presentation that we saw this morning from Engineering the Final Frontier, and say that when we started with workplace planning and advanced work packaging, it was all on the contractors. And for a while, the contractors were trying to implement workplace planning, they were trying to implement AWP, and they got involved earliest in this process. And so naturally, they've learned more about it, they've developed their level of knowledge and expertise. And then we started into advanced work packaging, and we moved into the engineering component, and we found that the engineers weren't as familiar because they were being brought into the process later. And we also found that when we got into the front end portion, we started talking about procurement, and of course the procurement folks weren't as involved. And then we said, okay, well, to do procurement, we've got to get involved our vendors. And we realized that, hey, our vendors don't know as much about this because we haven't engaged them the way we have the contractors. And another piece of this is logistics. And we've now started to realize that if we want our supply chain to work properly, we've got to start thinking not just about procurement, but also about how do we get those procured items to where we want them to be, when we want them to be there. So that gets into the whole issue of logistics. My understanding of the last mile logistics in construction is that we're focusing on, once we've already acquired the materials, how do we expedite getting them to the facility? And that includes how do we order them? How do we pick and pack them? Steve, you moved a little too quick. How do we pick and pack them? How do we get them there the best route? How do we actually deliver them? And then how do we get the paperwork to back up that delivery? Next slide, please, Steve. And the 5 key areas that seem to be involved in this is our technology stack, optimizing the user experience, really getting high levels of customer satisfaction, advanced analytics and data, just-in-time delivery, and focus on customer service. And I think one of the points that's really interesting in this, and I'm not sure who brought it up, but I want to thank you for bringing it to our attention, is over the last 2 years, who hasn't used Amazon? Who hasn't ordered materials and then picked those materials up with them being pre-ordered, pre-bagged, and tagged? All of the stuff that we're talking about has been used for years outside the construction industry. So we're not talking about bringing in new approaches, new technology. We're talking about taking established concepts that work incredibly well and then applying them to the construction space. So this is a topic that was brought up by at least a few of the attendees, and I think it's something that we probably want to look at next year when we do our next conference. Next slide, Steve. So I'm going to hand it back to Silvana, and we're going to ask some Slido questions to get a better sense of who and where you are.
Oh, Savannah, in case you are speaking, you may be muted.
I'm sorry. We see Houston, Canada, Louisiana, Gulf Coast. We have someone from Italy, Vancouver. Yes, we have a really good big area around North America. We can say it's an exception of a few people from Europe that is still with us. Our friend Nick is still in Japan here with us. Someone
Yes.
in Madrid.
And I believe for Mick, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. So kudos to you, Mick.
Yeah, and I'll mention there's actually a strong contingent of JGC representatives at the conference this year as well, and Chiyoda as well from Japan.
Great. That's something that we want to mention to everyone. The presentations, and I'm talking about the not just the plenaries, but the breakouts as well, have all been recorded. And where we have permission, we will be posting all of those presentations. You can take a look at them on demand. There was one presentation where, and that's the contract strategy one, where there was a little confusion as to the sessions because we moved 2 sessions at the request of the speakers. So that one is available, and if you want to take a look at it, Steve, I believe, has already posted it. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Right. All right, our next question is, what what are your greatest pain points related to implementation of advanced work packaging into a project? What is your point of concern? Buy-in, adapting to the change by still learning process, engaging engineering early on, competitive business, dealing engineering and procurement with the little guys, as probably a big one, material management, engineering sequence, consistent and inconsistent in data, materials, again, cost, the speed of project execution. That's a good one. We sometimes forget about all the plans that we do when we change to a project that is schedule driven, setting AWPs, CWPs, and IWPs, and time and matter. High expectations, I like that. We talk a little bit about that. It's depend of where you implement your processes, how much benefit that you're gonna get on a then result.
Not sure I know what need more buggies is, but
Oh, I do. That one was perfect.
I like that. I think that is in reference to the to the video that we hear this morning.
oh, okay. And
Getting on board contractor and subcontractors. That's probably.
And one of the things I think you're going to find is if you look at what CII is doing, what COA is doing, what ECI is doing, what the Lean Construction Institute is doing, a lot of the challenges that you're having, they are attempting to get you some help with. So they're looking at scaffolding, they're looking at data, they're looking at commissioning, they're looking at education. So the more information we have like this, the more it helps us to ensure that when we pull the program together for you next year, we're hitting the right point. Because it is all about you and where your challenges are.
Getting the right stakeholders involved in every planning. That's a big one.
Yeah. And
right.
We have somebody from Nigeria, so welcome to the event. Okay. Steve, can you move us to the next question, please?
All right. The next question. In 1 or 2 words, what did you learn at the conference that you believe will be a greatest value for your organization? Just 1 or 2 questions. Or 2 words, sorry. Bigger cranes, paper data. Mission involved. I like that. AWP is the way to go. Tagging relationships. That's a good one for the last presentation. Billable IWPs. Link data. Technology, commissioning. AWP is here to stay. All right, so path of construction. Can we move to the next one? One more. In
Yep.
one or two words, what would like to more information in the next year on the conference? Definitely SWPs, EWPs, procurement, models, vendor package, risk management, change management, more applicable cases, Power BI, I read one before, practical solutions, case studies. All right,
I don't know who said bring vendors into AWP, but I think that's gold.
constraint management, procurement, example from EWP. I guess, Lloyd, from one I can read on this one is the real life example is a big ask always in all the conference, and that is what we are getting to reflect on all those
Absolutely.
aspects.
And I have to say, I struggled hard with whether we should make this a physical or a virtual event. And it actually delayed us quite a bit. But I spoke with the executive committee, with the advisory board, with many companies, and we found that because of the risk given the COVID situation, we just couldn't in good conscience have a physical event at this time. To be honest with you, I'm a Canadian, and the Canadian borders weren't even open yet and still aren't. They will be in about another week or two, but I would kill for a physical opportunity to get together with all these knowledgeable people. But in our industry, safety has to be our biggest concern. And if we can't guarantee that we can do a safe event, then we can't put one on. So I don't know if you agree or disagree with that decision that we made, but the executive committee fully supported making the switch to a virtual event. And everyone wants us to get together and start doing this physically in the same spot. So we're still planning on doing that in April in Europe, but definitely that's one of the challenges we're still working with. Okay, yes.
Yeah, so just looking at this, I mean, from an owner's perspective, I'll just give you a couple food for thought here for the group. I think see on here, you know, data standards. I see lots of commonalities, but what I would say is that I really would like in the next 2 years to see that project that encompasses all of the good attributes of AWP, of engineering, of procurement, of startup, and that actually does collaborative contracting in a way that we all are trying to achieve the same goal without having to get into the, you know, the legal elements or the incentive and benefits and penalties and et cetera. That just says how good could we do this? How good would it look? What would it look like? I think it's a given that if you want to operate, at least in, you know, the major oil and gas industry, you're going to have to implement AWP. It's an integral part. you're going to have to integrate digital solutions that support it. You're going to have to do things like 4D that allow us to take the discussion from a P6 schedule that's 1,000 pages long and 6 weeks old to what are we doing tomorrow in 30, 60, 90 days ahead and being able to visualize it. So I'll challenge, the group to say, how do we get to that point? That's the case study element that you see here, kind of where that goes. And it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult for owners to give that kind of detailed information to the broader community. But I would say that we all need to strive to be doing that. And if you can partner with somebody to do it, then do it. Because I really want to see what it looks like. I think these opportunities are way above and beyond what's been researched in terms of benefits, and I think we can show that. So I challenge you.
Well, and I know it's been talked around, but the data requirements team, when they talk about how they've been able to achieve so much in such a short period of time, Jay's the guy that challenged CII and challenged the industry to get those people together and make it happen. And I think that's what we need. We need to have audacious goals so we have something to strive for. Steve, next slide, please.
Okay, that's the last one
Yeah.
of the questions that we have, Lois.
Yeah, so we've got 8 minutes left, and we're going to end on time. But this is your last opportunity. If you have any questions that you would like to ask or any comments that you would like to make, statements, Steve, can you throw up Slido? And we won't have time to do many, but if you can tell us what you think we need to hear, that will help tremendously.
Or any additional questions that you have for the panel.
Need to move the IMM rock. I think I'm having a senior moment, but can somebody tell me what that means?
Sorry, integrated material management, I believe is what that's referring to.
Oh, okay. Good enough. We are amazing at 3-letter acronyms. Will there be beer at the conference next year? Yes. If it's live, absolutely. Thanks for the vote of confidence, whoever said that. Yes, absolutely. We want to get the vendors more involved. I will tell you that when we first started doing the conferences back in 2009, we had contractors, but had a hard time getting engineers involved. Now we've got engineers much more involved than they've ever been before, and we're starting to realize that we need to work to get the vendors more involved, and that's going to be a priority. And Eric, thanks for raising the point of integrated material management. When will an African conference be held? Well, given that it's been 2 years since I've been on a plane, soon, I hope. We now have communities of practice in the Middle East, in South America, in Europe, in Russia. We're starting one up in Southeast Asia. So absolutely, we want to have live events in all of those locations soon. More practitioner presentations. Absolutely agree. I think the more we can get case studies, the more we can get people sharing. And that's why we went ahead with the awards program. We think it will encourage people to share their stories. The video, nice way to present from O3, MDR and iConstruct. Yeah, I've had 2 or 3 people say to me, we're going to have to start figuring out how to up our game, because that shows what's possible. So I think that was great. Lessons learned from unsuccessful deployments. I think that's a great idea. Can we speak to AWP in reverse starting at the work face? I think that's a great point. That's why we're revisiting work face planning. More practitioners, yeah. Can we partner again with AWP University for more training? Yes, there is a huge need for training, and we strongly support going out, getting trained. AWPU does that, so does a number of other training providers, and so absolutely. How do we get the what went wrong into the show, perhaps anonymously? I think that's a great point too. Thought leadership from non-sponsors, absolutely we need to do that. Okay, I can see that came from Mark. Do it right or deal with Paul. I don't think I want to spend much time with Paul myself. Best route for a contractor to start being able to use the process. I think that's a great point too. One of the questions that I have is do you think it would be beneficial to have training sessions set up in conjunction with the conference, either preceding or following it, so that people can get more information? That's a question. Just let me know what you think. Looking forward to AWP and Lean info. That's a great point. We've started working with the Lean Construction Institute around collaborative contracting and combining the 2 approaches together, and we hope to have more on that next year. See what else we got here. More about the best practices for IWP in the field. Agree. How can we engage more people? One of the things that we found, that I think Mark actually even alluded to it in his awards, award speech, we really appreciate getting people who are passionate involved, because just the process of being involved is a great way to make networking connections and really push outside your comfort zone, which is really important with AWP. Be able to see some of the technology in action. One of the things that we've been talking about is actually putting on a technology conference around AWP. And the focus of it would be on how can we use technology to get a step change in our construction performance. Not focused on pushing anybody's technology, but just really showing and demonstrating what we can do and how we can get some quick improvements. So again, if that's something that people are interested in, we'd love to hear. More supplier and OEM involvement in use cases, totally agree with that. And I believe we're at the half-hour point, but this is for us what we need to know to make it even better next year. And the point there, less PowerPoint and more UI demonstrations. I think that if O3 and their partners did anything, they showed us that there are other options that we can do to get the information across in an interesting way. So want to thank them personally for that. I want to thank all the speakers, because there were a ton of them. We do have PDUs with this, and you'll be able to print off a certificate through the feed loop system. The feed loop system's actually going to be live for about 6 months, so you can get additional access to presentations you might have missed. You can send us messages. We really want to know what we can do to help move forward the entire industry, because AWP is a community, and we need to help organizations that are new, help organizations that are, you know, leaders in the industry, because if we learn from each other, everybody's going to benefit. Any closing comments from either of our co-chairs?
I would say, Lloyd, with all those subjects that we need to touch for next year, we probably need to think in 3 days instead of 2. That will be an in-person, definitely.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be the chair of the conference. I'm pleased to be able to share all the information with you guys, and looking for the next 2 editions on Europe and the next one on 2021 in person. Thank you so much.
And Alexis?
I would echo that sentiment. Obviously, want to thank the sponsors and all the speakers, but especially the Group ASI team, yourself. But you get to go on camera and talk. But to Stephen and Brian, who are in the background making this all happen, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate the effort you put in. There's a team in the background that makes all of this stuff work as well as it does, and that would be much more difficult if they weren't there. So want to make sure they get the recognition they deserve. But well done.
Well, thanks for that, Alexis. And we actually have other people beyond just Steve and Brianne that were involved in the background. So really appreciate the kind words, but we just want to do it even better next year, and we're looking forward to working with everybody again. So thank you all. Steve, say goodbye, because I think he'll be crashing and sleeping for about 2 days.
Thanks, everybody. See you again soon.
Okay, bye all.
Bye.